Respected viewers, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the show Heroes of Karbala with me, your host, Moussa Jassim. And in this episode, we'll be looking upon the story of Habib Bin Mudhahir al-Asadi. First and foremost, we send our deepest and most sincere condolences to the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, and especially the Imam of our time, Imam al-Mahdi. May Allah hasten his reappearance in this heartbreaking month, where the holiest blood was shed and the greatest women were held and taken captive. On the tragic day of Ashura, where justice rose against injustice and truth stood against falsehood, and proved that over the course of generations, truth is always victorious. A day that taught the world in its entirety an abundant amount of lessons and virtues, to the point where words were not fully enough to describe it in their eternal effect. Virtues and lessons such as courage, sacrifice, loyalty, unconditional love, compassion, gratitude, and honesty, and countless of others were all presented to generations after generations through a single battle where blood became victorious over the sword. If one were to examine the definition of each characteristic, one would instantly notice that they do not mention or specify an age nor a limit. Because one learns these lessons from the day of Ashura, one notices that the sacrifices that were made did not have a limit, nor did they stop at an age. We mentioned in previous episodes the martyr of Ali al-Akbar, and the martyr of Ali al-Asghar was only 6 months old, and the martyr of al-Qasim was only 12 years old, where each were very young, yet they risked their lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the end scale, one also witnesses that on the day of Ashura, many elderly men who had youthful spirits were enlightened with the love of the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, also gave up their holy lives for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Among these men was one of Imam Hussein's closest childhood companions, who was told he was going to be martyred on the plains of Karbala ever since he was a child, and this man was Habib Bin Mudhahir al-Asadi. Being known for possessing many honorable, meritorious traits and attributes, Habib was one of the Ahl Bayt's closest companions, who was willing to give up his holy life to ensure their safety at any given time. If one were to analyze the character of Habib, one would instantly notice that through his action he was capable of demonstrating bold and reasoned judgment. Whereas seen before the day of Ashura, when he received the Imam's letter asking for assistance, one would also realize that he was fearless and courageous, yet very calculated, especially when it came to tasks and challenges. One sees this trait in Habib on the day of Ashura when he's in charge of the left wing of Imam Hussein's army, yet at a specific time witness his persistence to go in battle. One day when Habib and Imam Hussein were very young, Prophet Muhammad was walking with one of his closest companions, Mudhahir, Habib's father. Suddenly the Prophet stopped and sat on the ground after he saw Habib walking behind his grandson Hussein alayhi salam. He called Habib and hugged and kissed him. This raised Mudhahir's curiosity and asked the Prophet as to what great deed his son has done to deserve the affection he was receiving. At that moment the Prophet began to cry as he said, "O Mudhahir, while we were walking, I noticed that Habib would always walk behind my grandson and never beside him. Habib would stop at specific times and pick up sand from underneath Hussein's feet and put it on his eyes out of respect. O Mudhahir, Habib will come to my Hussein's aid one day, where Hussein is left alone on a scorching desert with very little companions and many enemies." This turned out to be entirely true, as Habib turned out to be one of Hussein's closest friends growing up. And even when he got older, we see that Habib followed the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam wherever they went. When Imam Ali alayhi salam moved to Kufa, Habib also moved and became a well-known leading citizen in his community until he was needed to assist the grandson of the Holy Prophet. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam received a letter from the people of Kufa, the letter was signed by no other than Habib. This reveals that although the enemies outnumbered the truthful companions by thousands, Habib, being a remarkable individual, stood by the truth and refused to let the group of misled people to change his position in defending the Imam. So when Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, the governor of Kufa, sealed the city to the point where no one could leave nor anyone could enter, Habib found other ways to reach Karbala. However, because the city was cut off from the Imam's news, Habib did not know about the Imam's whereabouts. Knowing the battle of Karbala would not be complete without the presence of Habib, Imam Hussein sent a letter to his childhood friend telling him about Karbala and the tens of thousands that gathered to kill him. Here we witness Imam Hussein's trust in Habib as soon as he knew about his whereabouts, Habib would risk his own life just to reach the Imam's destination. We also witness this beautiful trust bond between Imam Hussein and Habib even before his arrival in Karbala, in a conversation between Imam Hussein and Sayyidah Zainab. When the Imam and his household arrived to Karbala and were faced with the enemy's army, they saw that as each day passed by, tens of thousands of misled people joined Yazid's army. At this point, Sayyidah Zainab approached the Imam and asked him when his other companions were going to join him. Imam Hussein looked towards the direction of Kufa and swore that one of his faithful friends was soon approaching. When the Imam's letter reached Kufa, a trusted messenger brought it to Habib in the middle of the night. When Habib received the letter, he began to weep and kissed and wiped it on his face. After reading its content, he knew that he needed to leave Kufa that very night. When he began to weep because he realized Imam was in great danger and that thousands were thirsty for his blood, Habib's wife asked him what was wrong. When he told her about the Imam, his wife began to cry as well and urged him to leave quickly to help the grandson of the Holy Prophet. When Habib was finally ready to leave, he turned to his servant and told him that he was free. However, his servant did not move and told Habib that he was being unfair because he had served him faithfully for many years, and when he came to winning a spot in a paradise, he was denying it. Habib was overjoyed to realize the love and loyalty his servant had towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Together they mounted their horses and quickly left towards Karbala and arrived the late evening, deciding between the truth and injustice and realizing that the afterlife is far more important than the ending life is not something anyone could do regardless of how obvious and easy the choice may be. By hurrying to assist the Imam, Habib revealed the beauty of his character as he didn't even think twice about helping the Imam. By doing this, Habib taught the world that assisting the truth doesn't necessarily require materialistic power or a large amount of people. Instead, the truth can be exposed through a single powerful stand with a small group of faithful and loyal individuals with remarkable characters. Fearless, courageous, and calculated in terms of decisions are all words that fit perfectly the youthful individuality of Habib Bin Mudhahir, even though he was at the age of nearly 75. He was known for wise decision making and skill in terms of deciding and battling, and this was evident when he went down to the battlefield to defend Imam Hussein alayhi salam. On the day of Ashura, when almost Imam Hussein's companions were martyred, Habib Bin Mudhahir came to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and asked for permission to go to the battlefield. The Imam, however, refused at the beginning and reminded Habib that was in charge of the left wing. At this point, Habib pointed to the left wing where Hussein saw that there was no one left. Why? Because all of them have been murdered for the sake of the Imam. At this point, the Imam began to weep for his companions and said, Habib, although you are my friend, you have provided me with great comfort. I cannot deny you from going out defending the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go, Habib, may Allah be with you. Imam Hussein said his final goodbyes to Habib and wept as he knew this would be the final time he would see his loyal friend. Habib's decision to be the last one to fight out of the companions was very wise and reasonable because he had the responsibility of being in charge of the left wing. He waited until there was no one left so that he is able to protect the left side of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When Habib alayhi salam went down to the battlefield, he did not fight right away. Instead, he decided to give the enemies another chance at backing down from killing the Holy Prophet's grandson. However, because the evilness and hatred they harbored in their souls, none of them listened to what Habib had to say. At this point, nothing was left except to battle, so he began to fight against the enemies. One of Yazid's soldiers, Al-Husayn ibn Umayr, who was known for his hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, was one of the first to face Habib. Habib, however, fought valiantly and hit Al-Husayn's horse on the face, causing Al-Husayn to fall over onto the ground. Many fighters rushed to save Al-Husayn, however, Habib managed to kill all of them except Al-Husayn. In spite of his old age, Habib killed over 60 fighters before one of Allah's enemies charged at him with a spear, causing him to fall on the ground. Upon seeing this, Imam Hussein rushed towards Habib as he was taking his very last breaths. Habib looked at the Imam and said, O Master, O Hussein, please forgive this humble servant for not being able to give up more than his unworthy life for you and Islam. With that, Habib Bin Mudhahir closed his eyes for the very last time and rested his head on the shoulder of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When Imam Hussein salam returned to the tent and came back to take Habib's body, he saw an extremely tragic scene that no words would be enough to describe it. The enemies were not satisfied with just killing Habib. Instead, they cut off his head and tied it to one of the necks of the horses. The enemies were not satisfied with just killing Habib. Instead, they cut off his head and tied it to one of the horses' necks. Imam Hussein could not bear to look at the intensity of the situation and went back to the tent with only Habib's body. Out of all the companions, Habib's head was cut off first and was the only one whose head got tied to a horse. Now, although these events seem very tragic, and if any normal person would know this would be the outcome of remaining specific side, one would obviously feel scared and some maybe even uncertain. However, the companions of Imam Hussein were very different. Habib knew exactly what was to happen to him and was told everything the night before the 10th of Ashura. However, he remained on Imam Hussein's side and happily and eloquently, as he stated many times, "Death with Hussein is sweeter to me than honey." This remarkable and inspirational individual, who had a soul far more beautiful than one could comprehend and displayed magnificent virtues, is a role model that truly deserves to be followed. Through his powerful stand and the dedication he had towards defending the religion of Islam, Habib became an internal symbol that one looks for countless morals and lessons. Habib is a great example of why Imam Hussein said, "There are no companions better than mine." Respected viewers, brothers and sisters in Islam, thank you for tuning in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.